All right. And here we are with the final four edition of the Teachers Talking Hoops podcast. Well, so we haven't talked since last time. I
hmm
should actually pull up our predictions here. We've got all number one seeds. So while I pulled
Yes.
this up, what do you think about that? There's a lot of people that are saying that all number one seeds means that this is the death of the tournament and NIL is ruining everything. What do you think about that?
So this is the first time this has happened in 17 years.
Yep, yep.
Um, I blame half of this on NIL because my fear is that now with NIL that the Cinderella run is destroyed. Um, because no longer are these schools not only retaining their kids, but they don't have enough money to shell out.
hmm
So I feel like the only really Cinderella schools that you might see are maybe like the Ivy Leagues, or you get lucky and get hot with a mid-major. Um, but yeah, I'm a little nervous for the Cinderellas. The era of NIL has ruined a lot for college basketball, but I mean, you know what? These are the four best teams in college basketball, and they're showing us that they belong here.
Yeah, I'm not convinced it's the death of Cinderella. Are you putting that? Don't put that in your mouth. Okay. I'm not convinced it's the death of Cinderella. I think that I need to see it happen another year or two more, right? Because you have just like you have 16 to 1, you can have all four seeds, right? Like
Right.
that's the madness part of it. So
hmm
like just like you can have upsets, you can have chalk. And
Right.
I think too, this is these are four statistically, these are four of the best teams ever.
Yeah.
And so we are not talking a week league or week year where some teams might get picked off. This is four of the best teams
Right.
did what they were supposed to do.
Right.
I think there had been some good teams all year, and these teams had lost. Auburn had lost, Duke had lost, but off of the eye test, these were the four best teams all year.
Right.
I think everyone knew that Duke was really good. I think when you have a defense like Houston, you can't deny how good that team is. Auburn's been good all year, and I've been really high on Florida since about halfway through the season, just with what they
hmm
can do on offense.
hmm
That it sure they could have lost,
Right.
but I mean it probably would have been a bigger upset for them, for those teams to not make it than to have this all number one seeds.
hmm Yeah. A lot of people say that the chalk is boring. Um, I think, now it's kind of going to get really dicey because I think everybody is pretty much split between, um, the four teams. There's a lot to like about um, each of them. Uh, so I think even though it's ones, and a lot of people will be like, oh, ones, like you're right, like that's the madness part of it. Um, and just because it's the four best teams, and like that's ultimately what you want to see, because at the end of the day, right, like if an 11 seed was in the final four and then they got blown out by 30, everybody would be like, well, I don't want to see that. And it's like, well, then don't complain about the ones
Yeah.
matching up with each other. So yeah, I'm excited. um Interested to hear your Duke versus Houston take, considering you were texting me a little nervous after watching that Houston game.
I
Uh,
mean, I think my Duke Alabama take, without recapping the Elite Eight too much, that was a pretty good take because that game wasn't. That might have been one of the least nervous games I've watched all year.
really,
They just
they got held in
af-
check.
after like 3 minutes, I was like, Alabama's not going to win this game.
Yeah, they got held in check for sure.
Let's
Um,
let's do Auburn, Florida first. We'll
because you want to
finish
save Duke
Houston.
for,
Yep.
you don't want to get that out of the way, and then, um,
So
yeah,
let's talk about their path real quick, right? So um, Auburn had the Michigan State game.
mm,
Florida had the who'd Florida
Texas
take
Tech
down?
meltdown.
The Texas Tech game. Yep. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I almost forgot about that game. Oh yeah, where like Walter Clayton just like couldn't miss. Texas Tech couldn't hit a
Mm,
free throw.
right.
Um, yeah, so I mean, really, both teams got here differently, right? One
Mm,
team, I don't want to say they lucked into it. I mean, they scored. I forget the exact time, but I want to say Florida scored something like 8 points or 18 points in the last like 2 minutes. It was
yeah,
something
huge
ridiculous
run.
like that.
Hmm.
Um, and so you got one team that maybe kind of lucked into it, and another team that just looked like kind of the team that looked like all year. Auburn just looked sort of like the older, tougher, better team, right? Like the team that's just not going to impress you, but like they're just going to wear you down. They're going to beat you. I mean, I was worried when Broome went down.
Mm,
Um and then he came back and the first or second possession he came back, he hit a three.
mm. Yeah, I mean, it helps when he gives you 25 and 14 on 10 of 13 shooting. So,
Yeah.
really efficient numbers from him. And then, Cheney Johnson giving them some good minutes when Brew went out. Um, they outshot uh, Michigan from the field. Um, a little concerning, 55% from the free throw line, but
Yeah.
uh, they had, I mean, I was impressed. Janai Broome says he's good to go.
Hmm.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, technically, right? You have him against Alex Condon, who are two banged up guys. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think this will be a really good game. It's going to come down to Walter Clayton versus Janai Broome. Like
Yeah.
that's just the reality of it now. I mean, Texas Tech had this game,
Hmm.
and you know, I mean, going back through the game, they had a 90. Texas Tech had a 90% chance to win. They were up seven with 3 minutes left, and then Florida came back and tied it within a minute and 13 seconds. Um, Fabulous game by Walter Clayton. 30 points, 50% from the field. Um, but Florida's got a lot of guys that, you know, Thomas Houck and Martin and Condon. Like, I, I think they can beat Auburn, to be honest with you. I just think Florida's probably the hottest team right now. I think Florida, out of these four teams, has been the most tested in the tournament because they sneaked out that UConn win and then they come back again against Texas Tech. Like pretty much everybody else has been ahead. Um, for most of the game, I know Alabama was down to Creighton and Michigan, but they won pretty comfortably. They haven't really had to close it out in crunch time. Duke's pretty much had an easy road. Um, and then Houston had that one game against Purdue, but they looked dominant against Tennessee. So I think Florida's the most prepared. I don't see any reason why Walter Clayton doesn't stop doing what Walter Clayton does.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think they can beat Auburn. I think they match up very well against Auburn. Um, and the thing that like Florida we've been touching on this year is part of the reason you've been high on them is like they have size, they have depth if they need it, and they just have experience. Um, and Auburn has that too, and I think this is a game that's going to come down to who can make shots, who can take the smart shots, and then who's going to execute when it
Yeah.
comes down to like the under 5 minutes to go.
Are you you mentioned the Houston Purdue game being close. Florida wins easy in their opening game.
Hmm.
They get into a dogfight with UConn.
Hmm.
They beat a either physically or mentally depleted Maryland pretty easily. They get in a dogfight with Texas Tech.
Hmm.
Is this? I was high on Florida. Is this the Florida team that I was high on? do you still think that is this a team that has just been challenged, or is this a team that is showing flaws now? Like flaws that is going to cost it a title?
No, I think they've just been challenged. I mean, whether we admit it or like to admit it or not, like UConn was still like a good team.
Mhm.
They had that pedigree, and then Texas Tech was a good 3 seed. Um, so these are not to say that the other teams didn't play um, good teams, um, but I think Florida finding a way to win without Condon, um, and then kind of having to shuffle their lineup around. Chinyelu didn't have the best game against Tech, but like they're long and they can defend. And I mean, I guess if you want to look at how the trajectory goes, like you want to be high on them because it's been blowout, close game, blowout, close game. So
Mhm.
technically, they're on track for a blowout. Um, so I'd still feel confident. Their one meeting this year, Florida put 90 on Auburn and won by 9. Um,
And that
so
was
if they can have some balanced scoring like they did, they're gonna come out with another win.
was that without someone injured? And that was Broome injured in that game. I want to say someone.
No, he was there.
Okay, it might even be
Um,
a Florida guy that was injured. I feel like there's
yeah,
someone
Elijah
injured.
Martin wasn't. He didn't play in
Okay.
that one. So
Um, yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I think um, the tournament's all about matchups,
hmm
and to look at one game and be like, oh, that game was close. Maybe this team isn't that good, and
right.
you ignore the matchup part to it
hmm
because these teams are all capable. I think like we'll get to Duke later, but I think Alabama, while it's Alabama. I don't think that they were particularly a great matchup for Duke, or like I don't think Duke was a great matchup for them.
hmm
Even though they can score,
Right.
Duke has one of the top 3 or 4 defenses in the
hmm
country and a great offense, and Alabama doesn't play
hmm
defense.
hmm
Alabama put 113 on a BYU team that doesn't guard the
Right.
ball.
hmm
So it's so much of it is just team matchup, player matchup, right? Do you have someone that can stop your star player?
Right.
Um, do you have, like in this case with Florida, right? Do you have a guy that's strong enough and tough enough to kind of shut down Broome? Does
Right.
Auburn have a guy that's quick enough, right? And you've got a guy like Walter Clayton who's going to score a bunch of points. So then you kind of ask, do you have a guy in Auburn who is willing to kind of just play defense, right?
hmm
Not be like a 3 and D guy necessarily,
Right.
but just accept like my job is to shut this guy down to give
Sure.
us a good chance to win this game.
hmm Yeah. I mean, if Auburn wants to win this game, they're going to have to defend.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it's no mystery that a lot of Florida's defensive plans are going to be around Janai Broome. So it's who else can make other shots. Because if Janai, like you can either let Janai Broome get his 30 and not let anybody else get theirs, and you can win the game, or you can let everybody else get theirs, which is around 8 to 10 points, and not let Janai Broome get his. Um, I see the first one is probably what's going to happen is Florida's going to say, sure, you can get yours because Janai Broome's going to get his.
Hmm.
He's too talented of a player to hold to 8 points.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's gonna depend on who else from Auburn can knock shots down. Um,
See, I was almost
and
thinking the exact opposite. I was thinking
mm,
if I tell you that Walter Clayton scores 18 points,
mhm.
does Florida, are you like, well, I guess Auburn won that game?
I mean, if everybody, because in their win, Walter Clayton only had 17, but other
Okay.
guys, made shots. He had 17. Richard had 12, or sorry, he had 19, but still, like, pretty close to 18.
Yeah.
Condon had
Yeah.
17, Howard 15, Klavchar had 9, Aberdeen had 10. Like, the box score was pretty even versus a lot of the Auburn games you see, like, Broome is
Yeah.
25, and then you see 25, 8, 4, 8, 7,
Yeah.
6, and it's like they're going to have to get a couple double digits. It's got to be around like 25, 9, 6, 11, 10,
Yeah.
if they want a shot to win this game.
That's why I think that I told you I think Duke, the winner of Duke Houston, is the national champion because I think Houston maybe causes some problems, but I think I feel confident about Duke beating Auburn,
Hmm.
but if it's Houston Auburn,
Hmm.
I feel like Houston has the
Yeah.
guys in their team to shut down Broome. Like they're built for
Hmm.
that.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, I think Houston's the real deal. Um, they survive Friday night, um, and then they come into Sunday and just completely demolish a Tennessee team that is by no means as bad as they looked.
Hmm.
Um, they held Tennessee to 28% shooting for the whole game, 15 points at halftime. And I mean, they just absolutely came in and blitzed them.
Yeah.
Um, and, Houston is very physical. They won by, we're going to say 20. They won by 20, and Jawan Roberts played under 20 minutes. Like,
Hmm.
that says something. Um, I'm feeling very confident in Houston being able to beat Duke, um, just because of Houston's physicality. And I know you're like, hey, how much do the referees let them get away with? But like, look at Sunday's game. Look at uh, Friday's game. Like, it's pretty physical in between the lines, and it's like most of the time the physicality of the game is in it where it's what the referees don't see,
Yeah.
um, that really gets you. And I think with Houston also comes the component of can you survive mentally against them. Um, so it'll be interesting to see like a young Duke team, because I mean this Houston team is experienced.
Hmm.
Um, so it'll be interesting to see what Shire has planned for Houston, because it's not like there's one guy that you can be like we need to stop him. Like
Yeah.
you can stop Roberts, but like Crier will go off, Sharp will go off, Uzan will go off, and then like vice versa.
Uh, uh, Duke wins by 15.
You think
Um,
so?
yeah. But um, I Houston's scary, for sure. And I think they are scary. So the physicality part that I mentioned, I think they are scary for a young Duke team. I don't think this is a soft Duke team. I think in the past Duke has been soft. I don't think that's the narrative this year's team, but they're young, and not only are they mentally young, they're physically under. I mean, Cooper Flag and Malawach are two of the youngest guys. I think Flag is either the first or second youngest guy in Division 1 basketball, and Malawach is I think like top 5 or top 10. So they're probably the two youngest guys left in the tournament, and you're just not strong, right? Like you're not, you don't have the body that
Mhm.
these guys have. Um, so I think, and those are guys. The NBA is so much more spaced out than college, right? So
Right.
I'm thinking like, okay, Durant's not big, but
Hmm.
Durant works in so much space, and
Right.
he's not banging down low on people. And Cooper
Hmm.
Flag, he can take you off the dribble, he can shoot it, but his
Right.
game really is a like a Tim Duncan esque type thing, like a better ball handler, Tim Duncan, where he kind of wants to pull up some mid range jumpers and he'll go back to the basket a little bit. And if you've got guys that are 5 years older than you
Mm.
and 30, 40 pounds heavier,
Right.
um, so I do think Duke is going to have to adjust to that. Um, I think I envision this game just like a couple of Duke's games in the tournament. I can't see them knocking out Houston early.
Yeah.
Um, I see it very close, a slow kind of grind game, and eventually Duke getting kind of a couple big threes to kind of get a little separation. But I guess the question I have for you is, and you kind of answered it right, but when we talk about Houston's defense, and Houston has by far, and Googled KenPom. Oh, no, I had to pull it up. So Houston has by far the best defense, right? If you look at the defense rating,
Right.
Houston is 80. I don't know what these numbers mean, but Houston's 87.4. And the next closest team, so that the second best Tennessee was the third best defense at 89.7. So Houston is just way better than everyone else. And the next closest
Mhm.
defense in the tournament that's left is Duke at 90.5. So Houston is just dramatically like Houston is better at defense compared to Duke than Duke is to Florida. And Duke is
Mhm.
clearly a way better defensive team of Florida. So
Yep.
Houston is just a great defensive team, but Duke's good. And I guess it's a question of if Duke is a team that's capable of putting up 80, 90 points relatively easily. If they can score 75 points against Houston, which is a lot, but Duke is the number one adjusted offense in the country. Duke is putting up numbers on offense efficiency that we haven't seen before. So Duke can put up 75. Can Houston score 77 points? Period, and especially against this Duke defense? Or are you just saying, forget about there's no way Duke's putting up 75 points?
Yeah, forget it. There's no way Duke's putting up 75 points. Since November 30th, Houston has gone 31 and 1. Just think about that for a second. They have lost one game in 3.5 months. They are for real. Duke is not getting 75 points against them. Duke might get 60, but I honestly think Houston's just going to manhandle them like
Wait a
they did
second, Duke's only
Tennessee.
lost one game since November 26th.
Yeah, well, that
So,
doesn't count. The ACC doesn't count. Um, I honestly think Houston will manhandle them. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I think we're going to see Duke like just hanging on for a majority of the game. And I could be wrong, but I just think Houston is too experienced. They've Kelvin Sampson, and I know John Shire's played in these, but there's a difference between you're playing and you're coaching in it. Um, and you pose a question of like, does experience matter for the players? That's what I think comes down to in the Final Four is like, how used to is the big moment too bright for you? And yes, like Cooper Flag's played in tons of big moments, but like he's never played in a Final Four. Like LJ Crier's played in a Final Four.
mhm.
I'm pretty sure Juwan Roberts has played in a Final Four. Um, you know, and sure, all of these guys have played in big games. Coaches have coached in huge games. Um, I just think physically and mentally, Houston has the leg up. And even if Duke goes on a little run, I think Houston's good enough to come back. They have offense, defense. Um, but I think it'll be a single digit game the whole game. Um, and you'd be like, well, how is Houston going to dominate them then? Uh, make it very hard to score. It's almost impossible to score in the lane against Houston. And then they have a really good 3-point defense. So, and then, they're going to shut down the transition game. Uh, they are one of the best offensive rebounding teams, and that's what I'm concerned about for Duke is are they going to be able to rebound? Because just because Houston doesn't grab the rebound off the first shot, they're tipping it to someone else who can grab the rebound.
Duke has been struggling on the offensive boards or on the
Mm-hmm.
defensive boards. They've been giving up more offensive rebounds of late, and that does concern me with this Houston team. Now Duke certainly has the size advantage over
Mm-hmm.
Houston. They have size advantage over most
Well,
teams.
I don't, I don't know.
They
I
do.
just,
They have the
I don't
length
know.
advantage. They have the length
No,
advantage.
they definitely don't have the length. Do you know the length of some of these Houston players?
Height wise,
I thought you were talking about lengthwise.
I'm just talking height. Yes, I know. I
Oh,
know one of their
okay.
guys is like 6'8", but has like a 7'5" wingspan.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I did see a picture today of Malik Brown catching an alley oop. Just FYI.
Oh my God.
Malik Brown is 100% back. He will be playing in this game. Legitimately playing this game. Now, he probably will be going to the hospital after a minute
He
of
might.
playing in the game.
Oh, that's so
but
mean.
um, but he'll be playing in the game. So the length does bother me a little bit because Duke has been making a killing off of the Con man alley oop.
Yes.
And that I firmly believe that is going to they'll get some, but that is
Will
going
we,
to get.
will we see more than three
I don't think so.
Concanival?
I like Calvin Sampson is a good enough coach, and this is a great enough defense that there's no way that isn't scouted. And these guys are tall, like lengthy enough to get their hands in
Yeah,
the passing lane. I'm surprised it's been happening as much as it has, but
right. I know you would think somebody would figure it out. Like
yeah,
if I had a 7-2 guy, I'd just throw it up to him too and let him dunk it.
yeah. Question though, right? I'm gonna name a player. Tell me, did they play if they played for Houston last year, based off of your knowledge? LJ Cryer.
Yeah.
All right, Emmanuel Sharp.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah. Let me
and
get it. They were on last year's team that lost to Duke. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so is this year's now? Last year's Houston team was without
Jamal
Jamal Shed,
Shed.
right? Is this Duke team not substantially better than last year's Duke team,
It is, but I think Houston's team is also better than last year's Houston's team.
even with the same guys? Do you think that there's extra motivation? So
I do.
I think most teams when they play Duke, there's extra motivation because they see Duke as like the spoiled, like rich kid of the sport. We should beat them. But do you think there's legit like this is the team that knocked out last year? They got lucky. They shouldn't have.
Yep. Kelvin Sampson doesn't strike me as a guy who forgets a lot of things.
Yeah,
And I'm sure he's got it all plastered over the practice gym this week. And he's reminding them every single second while they're running their 5 minute mile.
I saw that.
That's insane to me. Oh my goodness.
I mean,
Um,
Duke runs a mile as well. They didn't feel the need to have to post how fast or how it's going, but
I don't know if they posted it or did somebody else post it.
ESPN like posted. I don't know where they. I'm
Yeah.
sure like someone. I'm sure that information is like
Yeah.
available. It's like someone really wanted to get it from Duke, and I don't think the
Mhm.
Duke times were that great actually. Like I think Proctor and someone else ran a good time. I think like Sion James ran like a good time or something.
He strikes me. He strikes me as a person who would run a good time.
Yeah. Um. Who's the best coach in the Final Four?
Wow. That's tough, but I'm sorry. But I think I'm gonna go with Kelvin Sampson here.
I will as well until John Shire beats him. Um.
Okay.
I don't. I think Todd Golden's the worst coach out of the four.
I feel like you're like slowly like putting Todd Golden into your like dislike.
Yeah, I saw an interview with him, I think after Florida won, and I realized he looked like a guy that if I met in real life, I wouldn't like him.
Mm. He
So,
kind of
so,
gives you, yeah, he kind of gives off that kind of vibe.
yeah, it might just because he's young, like he just like I don't know.
Yeah, but there's like lots of young coaches that you'd be like, yes, like I would totally be friends with that guy.
I mean, I'd be friends with John Shire.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you're a Duke fan, so yeah, you would say that. You're
Um,
losing out on all these recruits in the portal.
don't need him. When you're the face of because we don't need them because we're bringing in the number one recruiting class, and look at who the guys that we brought in. Look who the starting point guard is. He was ranked like 80th in out of like the transfer portal last year. So like we could have waited 3 months and still got Sion James.
I don't know, Louisville. Louisville's bringing in a lot of guys.
Well,
Might
I'll
have
tell
your
you who
work cut
John
out.
Shire's a better coach than. John Shire's a better coach than the ACC Coach of the Year. I'll tell you that. If John Shire, so here's
If John Shire
how does
wins,
John Shire win the ACC Coach of the Year? What does he have to do to win the ACC Coach of the Year?
Come on. Pat Kelsey so deserved that award.
No. Okay. What what did John Shire do? He took one guy from Duke's team last year and did this,
This
right?
was expected.
So Pat
Louisville's
Kelsey,
was n- Louisville's
but
was
Pat
not
Kelsey,
expected.
Pat Kelsey didn't coach a team from the bottom of the ACC to the top of the ACC. He brought in a brand new team. Like Pat
They were at
Kelsey
the bottom.
didn't take the worst team in the ACC and make them the second best team. He took
They were
brand new
basically the
guys.
they were basically the worst team in the ACC.
How do we know it was new guys? It was brand new people.
Exactly. He puts in his first year.
So did
He
John
leads.
Shire. John Shire brought in a brand new team of
Yeah,
freshmen.
but this was expected.
So he
Louisville's
doesn't get the
wasn't.
coach of the year because it was expected?
Yes, exactly. People were
I didn't know the criteria was it just because like the best coach doesn't get to win because if you do what you're supposed to do.
That's the way it
I guess
is.
we're gonna have to tell the valedictorian, sorry, you didn't work as hard as that kid did, so he gets to be valedictorian.
This sounds like a separate podcast. Oh
um,
man,
so I agree that Calvin Sampson
Matt
at
Kelsey
this
is
point
the
in time
ACC
is
Coach of the Year.
probably he's probably the best coach in the Final Four. Um, I think he's adapted pretty well. His guys like him. Um, he's obviously has a great defense, but the offense is clearly coming along. And as you mentioned, these guys were there last year, and they've gotten better.
Right,
He realized probably that you can't just win a championship with defense. You can win it mostly, but you got to put the ball in the hoop.
right.
And so those guys have gotten better doing that.
Hmm.
Um, I think if this is similar to what Nate Oates said about kind of struggling with Duke and this being a quick turnaround, I think if Duke plays Houston on like the second day of the tournament, right? It goes like a Friday, Sunday, and they play Houston on Sunday. I think they struggle with Houston a lot more than if you give John Shire a week to prepare for it.
Fair. That's fair.
Because I do think John Shire is a good coach and could be a great coach, but I think he really understands this Duke team and kind of
Hmm.
how they work.
For sure.
Um, so our picks, we both just picked uh, the wrong one seed. So we both had
Basically.
Florida and Duke. You had Tennessee, I had Houston. You had Auburn,
Hmm.
I had Michigan State.
Mm. Yeah, I'm
Um,
gonna go. I'm gonna go Florida and Houston.
okay, we're in Houston. You want to give us a winner on that?
Um, I don't know. That's tough. Uh, I think it might be Florida. Not gonna lie.
Okay. Um, give me Duke Auburn, the rematch that everyone's been waiting for all season, anyways. Right, back from that faithful night in Cameron, and if it's Duke Auburn, this Duke team has improved drastically more, I think, than the Auburn team has.
Okay.
So give me Duke Auburn and give me Duke as the national champions.
What a shocker.
It's the best team in the country.
Will this be the year that you willingly watch One Shining Moment?
I hope so. So let's finish up on that question. Um, is is should any of these teams or their fan bases feel like this season was a disappointment if their team doesn't win the national championship? Are any of them like, oh, this was our shot, we blew it, man?
No. I mean, at the end of the day, there's only one winner.
Yeah.
Doesn't if you lose, it doesn't mean that you're a bad team.
Hmm.
It just means that you got outplayed that day. and it doesn't mean that your season wasn't a success. Like you got to like in the grand scheme of things, like you got to the NCAA tournament. 68 out of like 300 and something teams make
Yeah.
it. And teams 70 through, 100 are still really good.
Hmm.
You just didn't, you, for some reason, something happened.
Yeah.
Like, like Michigan State. Like, season wasn't a disappointment. Like, they made the Elite Eight. Like,
Hmm.
sure, it sucks that they didn't win. Or like somebody like St. John's or Tennessee or, uh, you know, who to do Alabama. Like,
Yeah.
really good teams. You can't define your season by whether you win the national championship or not, because then you're just going to be extremely disappointed every year.
You mean you mean like I do?
Exactly. Like you have to take the success that you do have and like think about that in the big picture. Like, oh wow, like four teams, you're the best four teams out of, you know, 300 and something, whether you expected to get there or not, you're here. Like you're a good team. Even if you don't win the national championship, people still respect you. So I don't think teams should define their season by whether they win the national championship or not.
Let me ask you this question: If uh if you make Houston and Duke and Florida and Auburn play a 3-game series, best out of 3, are you still picking Florida and Houston and then Florida?
Yes. Actually, Florida, Houston, and then I'd pick Houston.
Okay.
I'd I'd give Florida a 3-game series. Okay, so
Yep.
I'd give Florida a 2-1. Oh, I'm sorry, and then I'd give Houston a 3-0 sweep. To be honest, and then I would give
This is
I would give Houston a 2-1 over Florida.
I'm
I just
YouTube
think
looking this.
I don't think Duke can handle them physically. I'm sorry.
Bulletin board material. Where'd
Sorry.
this go? Where'd this go at? Bulletin board material. Let me see this here.
Sorry.
Where'd it go?
Listen, you said Caleb Foster was bulletin board
Caleb
material,
Foster,
and he had 5 points.
15 minutes, 5
He
points,
had
3 assists.
2 rebounds. You
Yeah,
were
and how
hyping
many
him
points did
up.
Mark Sears have?
You were
6.
hyping him. That's still more than five.
You said they go 9 deep. I said here comes Caleb Foster. He's like, go, wait, he's gonna play 3 minutes. Played 15 minutes.
You were hyping him
You
up like he was gonna have
you
a
should
15
know
point
as a
game.
basketball player, it's not about statistics. It's about the
Yeah, I
impact that you
know.
have in the game. Not
I
everyone's
know.
gonna score points.
I know. I listen. I watched the game. I I didn't know when he was in or out.
No, he had a huge three. Huge three. Duke was up
Oh
by like
man.
Duke was up like 3 or 4, something like that. He hit a huge three in the first half.
You got a lot more convincing to do there. I, to be honest, I watched that whole game. I couldn't tell when he was in or out. Also, how many of those minutes were garbage time when they were up by like 20?
None, none. He played like legitimate minutes.
All right, this is gonna like come back to like karma to bite me, and I'm gonna
Yes.
be like the Caleb Foss. Oh no, man. Yeah, I should really stop saying that.
I'm hoping for a little bit of an Isaiah Evans breakout game. Um, John Shire's he's sort of shrunk the rotation a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, which is okay. I think we see probably a little bit more Mason Gillis in this
Yep.
game
Yeah,
just because he's
probably.
big
Yep,
body.
for sure.
Um, I think we maybe see a little bit less Pat Gumba. Um,
Really? You think so?
yeah, I mean maybe less man maybe actually. I don't like one of them just because I do think you see more Malik Brown.
Yep.
And Gamba he's a better low post typical center threat than Man is for sure.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
I think he would
And
go well to guard Francis off the bench for Houston,
yeah,
though.
yeah, I think if I mean really if that lob threat isn't working, I mean the tough part is all these Duke bigs can stretch the floor a little bit. They can hit
Hmm.
threes,
Yeah,
but they haven't shot them, and
right,
now it's not the time to start shooting them.
right,
Um,
right.
so I I think we see what more Mason Gillis. I think we see less of either Gamba or um, Man Man. I I think Isaiah Evan gets a chance, especially if Duke is struggling to score, because Isaiah Evans will shoot it from anywhere on the floor, and
Yeah,
you kind of just see, does he get hot? You put him in for three
yeah,
minutes, let him shoot the ball six times,
yeah,
and see
yeah.
what
See what
happens.
happens. Yeah,
I mean, you need any team needs an experienced veteran or that's
right.
going to play well. And Tyrese Proctor's had a great tournament.
Yep,
And Cooper Flag's gonna take you there, but you probably need something from Tyrese
right.
Proctor.
Yeah,
If
closer.
Tyrese
Yeah.
Proctor doesn't give you at least 12 points and
Hmm.
probably three threes,
Mm.
you're in trouble.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I think they can win without that. Just like we said, Florida can win without Walter Clayton going off, but it certainly helps.
yeah. Absolutely.
All right, so we can try to if you're free Monday, maybe we can try to
Yeah,
touch base right before, or Sunday we can try to touch base right before the championship if Duke wins on Saturday.
yeah.
If
If not,
not,
you won't hear from us.
if not, we may not talk until uh, it's time to kind of until we let things settle down and debrief a little bit.
I mean, you let things.
Um, I'm just not ready for the season to be over.
You have to face your fears. Bless you.
I'm just not ready for things to be done yet.
No one ever is.
All right. All right. So yeah, we'll be in touch and we'll touch base and we'll figure out if we have some time to preview the national championship.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Until then, go Duke.